The NBA is trying to have this soccer style mid-season or in-season tournament that includes, a group stage and then knockout rounds, and then obviously the semifinals and finals that are set to be played in Las Vegas, I believe at the start of December 7th to 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Outside, I guess the first thing I would ask you, Lauren, is how do you feel about the new look stuff? Do you like the fact that they're trying to change up the actual look of the court and the style of the tournament, et cetera, or would you like it to be more, I don't know, I guess traditional?
That's it's a tough question. I think there's good and bad. I mean, as far as the new look, I appreciate the commitment of, okay, we've got these jerseys and we're going to try and switch up the court. We've got the promo commercial. I appreciate the commitment to, if you're going to try to implement something new, go for it. I don't love some of the jerseys that I've seen. I don't love a lot of the courts that I've seen. I think that there's room for improvement there, and maybe that's something that we see down the line. But as far as the NBA in-season tournament being a thing, I do admire and appreciate the level of commitment of, these are different games. This is a big deal. This isn't something that's like, this is chump change. Like a lot of people see these NBA contracts, and so this is just chump change and they're really just worthless. I appreciate them trying to show that it is bigger. And for some of these guys, it could be a very big deal for many of these guys. And so I when I think about it that way, I like it. But this is the first year, obviously, so I kind of want to wait and see what it looks like. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to watch as an observer, for sure.
Yeah, I think ultimately the first year of anything feels kind of shaky. I remember the first, we both remember, it's not like it was a long time ago, but the first iteration of the play-in tournament, right? In the bubble, which was very intense. I think it added a new element because it was the bubble, but also it gave the opportunity for the NBA to be inventive and to try something new. They tweaked it as it went along and they adjusted it so that it wasn't just one play-in game, and it was actually two play-in games that they incorporated for the regular season. I absolutely think the play-in is a smashing success. It has been incredible. I love the fact that there is this sort of single elimination style incorporated into basketball. And now you're seeing this being incorporated with the in-season tournament. Yes, there's going to be a group stage. And yes, there's going to be, the knockout stage later on that still is included in the regular season. But ultimately, there's been this question of like, oh my God, are the players going to care about this? Are they going to care about this being competitive? And I just think that is absolutely ridiculous, right? These guys get paid money to play in regular season games. This is included in the regular season games that come. They get a bonus for playing in these games and winning these games. But on top of that, this is part of the contract. You literally sign the contract to play in regular season games, to play in playoff games. And yes, we can debate the whole, are players invested in regular season games in the first place, et cetera, et cetera. I think this kind of feeds into the competitive nature of professional athletes. Lauren, we talked about this last year, right? Where we said it's sort of crazy to think these guys aren't competitive by nature. Do you know how hard it is to get into the NBA? Do you know how hard it is to stay in the NBA, to become an all-star and an MVP? You need to be, as JJ Redick calls it, a quote-unquote sicko to be in this league, right? And I think like to question that and say, oh man, nobody's going to care about this tournament. Nobody's going to care about this because this is just, there's no incentive. Players are only getting paid this much, whatever. Bonus is only this much. A money incentive doesn't matter. That's ridiculous to me because these guys will go out and do that consistently. This isn't some all-star game. This actually impacts their regular season as well. And on top of that, they might be able to get a trip to Vegas out of it, which is another bonus to all of this. All of the players love going to Vegas. All of the players love going to that. And I think it gives you a chance to compete for something else. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to all be about the Larry O'Brien trophy. It would be awesome to see a team like Detroit, who is off to a good start, or Oklahoma City Thunder, who we love, both of us on this podcast, get to a point where they're, hey, maybe in the semifinals, maybe in the finals of this in-season tournament, and we get to see these young teams be on a good stage. I just think there's so many more positives than there are negatives to this in-season
Yeah.
tournament. Being so against it feels silly to me.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm with you there. I think it's one of those things where it's almost like, and I'm glad you brought up the play-in tournament, because people obviously had their questions, and it was, how serious is our players going to take it? There was a lot of sort of initial criticism, and then it's one of those things where once you kind of see it in motion, it's like, oh wow,
Yeah.
this is where you really see what you're talking about with JJ Redick calling it like the basketball sicko mind, when you really see the sort of true competitive nature come out and how serious it really is. So I think that it's going to be a very similar situation here with the in-season tournament, and I hope that it is. I hope it is for the fans. I hope it is for everyone watching, for the players. It's just going to make it that much better. So I am excited for it.
And from like a fan perspective, there's going to be conversation about it. Let's say, I don't know, like your Mavericks win the in-season tournament. Luka just goes off, right? Single elimination, Luka Doncic. I feel like he could absolutely destroy in this tournament. Let's say the Mavericks go off and win this in-season tournament. But let's say in the playoffs, they lose in the first round or the second round. Oh, that in-season tournament thing was Mickey Mouse. They couldn't do it. They couldn't capitalize on it. And there goes the content machine, right? There goes the engagement machine. People will start replying in tweets, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, it might be, you know, I don't know, bad publicity. I don't know if it's necessarily bad, but it still is attention. And it still is, I guess, rhetoric, if you want to call it, just like dialogue, narrative that is happening about this in-season tournament. And eventually, real stakes get added on because fandom is like that, right? The reason we hold finals MVP to such high regard is because it's like, it's weighed so heavily in NBA history, right? You look back at all the finals MVPs, you look back at everybody who's won the award. People still talk about how ridiculous it was that Andre Iguodala won in 2015. And I just think like these things take time. These things require history to be built. And ultimately, the same thing is going to happen with the in-season tournament. We might look back at this, 15, 20 years from now and say, man, the creation of the in-season tournament was an incredible success. Genius. Look at how far it's come. The Apple in-season tournament, whatever they do with this thing, with TV rights and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm sure that's why they're doing this, though. It's just another thing they could sell, right? But I just think it's going to be a smashing success. Anybody who's questioning that, I don't know. I don't see any, I don't see any real downside to it. Anyways, that's sort of everything that's happened. Big topics that have happened throughout the week. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out a full episode of the Objective Basketball Podcast, the link is in the description. We'll see you guys there.